Welcome to Vice Grip Garage. My older brother Krang and I are going to turn this 1968 GMC parts truck into a running, driving, stopping, going to town rig. This truck's been off the road for 19 years. It currently doesn't even have an engine. We're going to toss this thing together as cheaply as possible, including a used old motor, junk, parts and pieces from other rigs and whatnot, and just stuff laying around, generally speaking. This is going to be miserable. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Really quick, I want to say thank you to AG1 for sponsoring today's video and helping to support my healthy goals and habits on into 2026, and they can help you as well. Even if you missed the big New Year's health resolution, it's not too late to start today. Creating a healthy habit and routine is key, and it can't be easier than AG1. Just one scoop or one travel pack, you're getting 75 plus vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. Me personally, I drink AG1 right when the lights come on in the morning. I've always got to walk around. I kind of got a routine of what parts do I have, what did I forget to order, what did I forget where I put that I did order, and so on and so forth. Basically just chasing my tail. I'll get my AG1 down, and then I start the day knowing I've done something healthy for my body. You know, there's many reasons to drink AG1, but for me personally, I'll break it down to the big three. The ease of daily nutrients, gut health, and energy. It's as simple as that. You know, all you need is 8 to 10 ounces of water in one travel pack or one scoop out of your canister. For me, the travel pack makes sense. I don't have room in this tiny fridge in the carport here, and I travel so much, it's just part of my routine. Shake it up and enjoy. You can add a little bit of juice if you want or something like that, but keep in mind, AG1 now has multiple flavors as well. This one is berry. Berry it is. Go to drinkag1.com/vicegrip and you'll get 3 free travel packs of AG1, 3 free travel packs of AGZ, plus free vitamin D3 plus K2, and an AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to this old pick-em-up truck. I'm excited. So guys, had this rig for a handful of years now, and it's time we toss her together. But like I said, we want to do it as cheap as possible. But keep in mind, there are some things inevitably we're going to have to use new, like tires, radiator hoses, fuel line, clamps, doodads, fluids. But the bulk of it, the majority of it, the goal is to use nothing but junk and trash, basically. We're going to try to put this truck together for a little of nothing. First step, though, is just to scoop this up. We're going to use the roll bed and get it into the shop, and then we're just going to kind of assess what we got. There's some parts in the cab I've been collecting over the years. There's some parts in the bed I've been collecting over the years, and figure out what we need off of other trucks, parts and pieces. Probably going to have to order some gaskets and things like that ahead of time. Now we're just going to tear in and see how far we can get throwing this truck together for $0. Okay, wind's coming. Okay, let's see. Snag it on the windshield wipers. I ought to bring her in. Oh man, looking good. We were going to use the Dodge wrecker to pull this up to the shop, but the drive pole is still in, connected to the transmission. And it's gonna ruin the U-joints. The transmission's kind of hanging, so we've got a throttle solenoid coming for this truck.
Throttle.
So we can run the rip'ems faster.
Is it going on over there?
Yep. Oh, a little this way. Krang doesn't realize it yet, but he's probably going to end up falling in love with this truck and driving it home. I think it's either the bumper or the topper. Oh, speaking of topper, we should probably do something with that, huh? Yep.
Yeah, doing stuff.
Gopher hole. So this topper is pretty awesome, but it's designed for a square body, so it's too wide. I've got her C-clamped on here. This was kind of the vision, but unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to take it off. It just doesn't fit right. It's hanging over and stuff. So I think we're just gonna snag it off and we'll throw it right on this Doge, which had a topper on it from the old timer, remember that? And it might look really good on this truck. So we're gonna un-C-clamp this bad boy and throw it over there. The truck originally had a topper. Oh yeah.
Not even close.
To hang out?
Oh yeah.
Shoot. Yeah. I like that. That's much better. I think we'll try to back this right up to the lift and just
Hop around.
Yep. Gotta get some wind over here in the tire. Boy, this truck is handy. Bam! We're out of here. So give us a couple minutes here. We're gonna put some wind in this tire, see if it holds anything. And basically just line the rollback up with the ramps of the lift here and try to plop it right onto that guy, and then we'll be good to go. Once we get it indoors here, we'll take a closer look at the rig. Really not much to look at, being there's no engine or anything, but it's a pretty solid truck. Show you guys here in a few. Come on. Super Sportices. Maybe? Oh, she's coming around. That'll make rolling it off here much easier. Oh yeah. Worked out pretty good. Well, the guy and a guy's got the truck in, and essentially the plan is to boop, beep, more on that in a minute. I'm actually really excited about the power plant, not because it's like super powerful, but the history of that thing and how good it ran 27 years ago should be great. Anyway, the truck, let's just start on the business end. Look at this bumper. That's Devin, that's probably 70, 18 rod? I don't know, but Krang really got in here. He actually went down on a knee looking at the bumper, and I think that's what sold him on it. The GMC had these awesome double headlights in the front. That looks pretty good. Whole reason I bought this truck was it's pretty solid. See the fender here? That ain't hit a single T-post yet. It could happen. Corners of the doors are soggy, pretty typical. Need a cab corner over here, but the rocker could still bounce off a rocker too. It looks like it has a couple times, but it's still there. Bedside is in fantastic shape. Never lost a tire on this side. Tailgate's been just warmed over. Look at this thing. Pretty rough. That's all right. You can see the plate there, 2007. This side of the bed, equalish, gooderish looking. A little bit of bubbling here, but I ain't too worried about that. Same thing over here. Soft door corners, needs a cab corner. And the rocker has deleted itself over here. Got an ankle vent, straight up injection. This fender's in pretty good shape, soggy on the bottom. But overall, this is a candidate for a good scratch and shoot, I think, sometime in the future. Got like Camaro sport mirrors or something on it and tint from the 80s, like that. This is pretty typical. You just dig around in here and she'll pop. Interior is luxury. It's kind of a foose model. You gotta step back and just really soak it in, especially the hallway carpet from a mobile home up on the dash. I really enjoy this. It doesn't bite your teeth out when you clean a ditch out. Seat's brand new. Not even a hole in that. We got the wrong color door cards for this, which is perfect. We'll probably end up putting those in. No idea if the fuel tank's good. It's rotted. Great. Okay. 3 on the tree. It's still there. Still treeing. Still got the pedal. That's hanging in there with a piece of barbed wire or something, if I remember correctly. 53,593.6 miles, and you can clearly see that that is 953,000 based on the condition of the door panel right here and the pedals. Got some parts I've been saving on. Headers to the wrong ear truck. Might fit an old clutch that's wrong, and a lower radiator hose. Already got gauge laters in it and a stock radio. That's pretty great. Found a rotor. Chevy 350. We could use that. I'm gonna set that right there, actually. Speaking of parts, I've got more back here I've been saving on. Ignore the wheels. That's for a different project that I never got to yet. But I do have a starter that's probably bad and a flexi fan. These are tires, the cheapest ones you could ever buy on the interwebs. They're Galaxy Virtuoses. R1 or 2s. I don't know, they're the right width and they're white letter. So we're gonna kind of go with the same theme here, just wide front and rear, I think. And then we got 2 radiators. I think this is an A-body fancy unit. Could work, probably not. And then if not, we'll use this one that's for an automagical transmission. But if it slips in the slot, then why not? You know what I mean? That's basically the exterior and the bed. I'll pop the power bar, and there's no power in there, but I'll show you what we got going on. All right. Boop. Oh, there's nothing. Great. So we're gonna have a wrestle of a time with the engine mount stuff here because I failed to order the correct mounts for this. So that's gonna be really fun. And we'll probably just give up and move on to something else. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. Get over here. Here we go. This is where we live now. It's had a brake master cylinder at some point. Scared to hit the pedal. We'll deal with that later. But we do have a shift machine hanging in here with the thrust bearing. The fork is there and the Z-bar, which is good. But I do not have a pivot ball. We're gonna have to figure that out, which is the part that slips in there off the block above the oil filter housing. This is gonna not be fun. They make a new style where the bolt goes through it. This old style, you gotta get a bolt underneath and it comes through here into the rubber part on the block, and they are a pain to line both sides up perfectly because you gotta do this and this and this and this and this and that and this and this all at the same time. So that's gonna be great. We've got to figure out cooling. We're gonna have to do all the digital, electrical stuff, pretty much everything other than figure out how to mount a transmission because it's in here. So we're assuming all of that's gonna be good. We're also assuming that that is good itself, that it shifts and it isn't grenaded, which it probably is. I think we might take this hood off just so we don't rip our scalps across it 15 times every 6 minutes. But anyway, enough about the truck. Let's talk about this guy right here. So this is gonna be our power plant. It's an old early 60s 327 with power pack heads and an old Y-end intake. And I know that doesn't sound very special or cool, but I love this engine, and it is unique because this actually came out of the 1963 and 1964 dirt track champion race car 777. This is the exact engine I pulled out of that thing. It has mystery internals. I don't know how it's put together. All I could tell you is this thing loves RPM, and it ran really, really good when I pulled it out 11 or 40 billion years ago. We might scope it, see what it's got going on for pistons. It does have power pack heads, and you could eat off of this thing. It's so clean inside. Exterior wise, well, it's pretty well sleeper mode. The other thing that's cool about this is it's kind of era correct. 60s 327, 60s truck, probably work pretty good. It's also got a pilot bearing already in it because this also had a 3-speed mated to it. And you can see the flywheel and clutch and everything hanging back here. We will have to get smart on accessories because the charging whirler was mounted to the frame. This has a short water pump. Nothing's really gonna line up correctly. I don't even know if it still rotates. We're gonna have to go through that. But this is the base of the build, and we're gonna cobble other parts onto this thing right here. First step on this whole thing is probably get the transmission out of the truck and get the two jammed together. But first, curiosity's got the bird's feather or whatever. Let's jam a scope down a sparkulator hole. I just want to see if this has stock pistons or if it's bored or what's going on. If I had more time, we would pull heads and take a look at those, but you know, let's just jam her in, make something run. So being these are power pack heads, they're most likely 60 cc chambers. They are smaller valve, and by today's standards, they don't flow that great, but you got to think back in the day when they were trying to hot rod stuff. This was quite the setup, especially if you had to use stock parts in this class. You notice the Chevrolet orange performance intake on there. Anyway, let's jam this in here. Yep, immediately. These are flat tops. Very small valve reliefs. Piston walls don't look the greatest. We can maybe pull, I'm gonna pull out a different sparkulator so we can find a piston more in the hole, see the health of the piston wall. But this is probably gonna be like a 10-to-1, 9.5, 10-to-1-ish engine, which I'm starting to kind of remember. Well, I got an old Purelator hanging off here. So we're gonna have to run probably 91, 93. It's still a pump gas motor, but it's gonna want some pretty good fuel. Let me knock some of these out, which we're gonna probably replace anyway. Missing one. And then we'll see what we got. So there is the cylinder wall and the top of the piston. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, and I apologize. You're just gonna have to trust me. It looks pretty good. Not seeing any cross hatching, but there's no big damage or scars or anything like that that I can see. I'll move around to some of the other ones and just make sure. But again, I've heard this thing run many years ago, and it ran like a scalded coyote. So I'm on number 7 back here. Look at this. This is the top of the piston. You can still see the ribs in the top of the piston from the manufacturing process. That's how clean this thing is. There are some vertical scars on the cylinder walls in this one, but they're not big. I wouldn't say you could catch a nail on that or anything, but this motor is absolutely clean, clean, clean. She just got some laps on her, some Friday nights, and a little bit of rallycross, which is what I did with it, but I feel pretty confident. I think the next thing we'll do is just throw a wrench on this, make sure it still rotates, and then we could go power plant, check, and then we'll move on to stuff. I think I have it on.
Nothing there.
Oh, it's pressed on, isn't it?
Let's just hand plant it.
Okay.
Nope, it's leaning on that.
Oh, it's got weight on her. I think I must have TDC'd it before I pulled it out. Probably because I borrowed the lightning whirler for something else. So we need to lift it before we can spin it. Or we just pretend that it works.
I think, well, this one's good.
Oh, okay. All right, we got her lifted up a little bit with the hoist. First time we're ever using a flywheel wrench for its intended purpose instead of trying to unstick one. We're gonna rotate it. Use all your back in a quick jerking motion. Oh yeah, look at that. I'd say that's pretty good, huh?
Free.
Okay.
Free bird.
Motor check, good enough. That's been sitting uncovered in storage for a long time. I'm glad to actually put this thing to use finally. Okay, pull transmission time, sweet. You ready?
Yep.
I've never been under this truck, so let's get it up so we can walk down the solution channel here. See what we got going on. Hopefully there's things like a functional rear end that's not empty, drive shaft in good shape. I know it's in there because I've dragged this around before and the transmission was clunking and banging. Shift linkage would be nice. Cross member in decent shape. Obviously it's not going to have exhaust or anything, but I think it's going to be easier to pull the transmission, connect it to the engine outside of the vehicle, then slide everything in together as a unit rather than fight around trying to line the transmission up and these motor mounts. Okay, so here we are. We've got kind of a different setup here. This is a front cross member on the transmission. The rear one is 86th. The speedometer cable is kind of holding her into place along with the e-brake. Chris pointed out the beefy drive shaft here. You know, that's for all that, getting that power down to the ground. But it has been played with. We got a newisher line, whatever that was. Carrier bearing's been carried in. And it's got some really good brake work back here. With the S-bend, it keeps the brake fluid cool. And then it only leaks a little bit like this. You know? I think that's just a pre-built stick that someone jammed in. Didn't want to shorten it up, which is respect. I get the, oh yeah, you can see the part number right there. Maybe a wheel cylinder at one point. It's got these cool overload springs on it. So when you really dip into the coil springs, these jam in right here, and it gives you a little bit of extra load capability. These aren't rotted out, the trailing arms. That's pretty common. And I'm happy to see that these are intact and in place. Look at these old shocks. Pro Rider! Premium assists. That one's good. That one's blow it out. But look how solid this thing is. That's pretty good. Just ignore that rotted part there. But the floor here is good. Ignore that rotted part over there. But the floor here is good. You know. Looks like stock. Front suspension. Discalator brakes in the front. That's pretty great. Those won't work. So that's good. I don't know. Radiator support is rotted out of it completely, which makes me feel better. It's more for me, more my style. That one's either collapsed or been heated. I'm not really sure. But that's the underside of the truck. So I'm just gonna knock 2 bolts out of this and crank and bear hug that and walk it out of the way. I guess we'll have to undo some linkage and stuff. And get the carrier bearing. We're gonna need some drive shaft slack in here. Should be some bolts up here. Yep, 2 bolts up here. We'll undo the straps here. And then we can slide this drive shaft back and out. And then we can snip and snag. Well, we got the shaft of drives out. Now we're planning how to yank that out of there. I don't have a transmission jack, so we're just gonna throw it on Krang's shoulder. He also pointed out the reason this rocker panel is so good is it's a piece of gutter that's been pop riveted over a non-existing rocker panel. So this is fine. I'm actually just gonna leave that just like that. We're gonna let this finish draining. The smell of gear oil is great right away in the morning. And then I guess it's clutch time and stuff on the engine before we get these mated up. Now we got these 2 bolts in the front cross member. We got it supported by a pull jack. And then I'm just gonna shove this onto Krang and we'll try to wrestle it to the ground. I don't know how much it weighs, but there's 1,000 pounds of beef betwixt us, so I think we'll figure it out. All right. Package. Uppage, down, twist, left, straight. That's not so bad. Well, the guys got the shift machine on the ground back here. Somehow we didn't fold in half or dropped it on our forehead. It is lighter than we thought, though. This is our clutch, obviously, on the engine here. We are going to replace this because from personal experience, I could tell you that this thing has been absolutely beat on relentlessly, and I'm sure it was before me as well, so we're not going to use this. This is one of the cases where we're going to just splurge on something new. We're going to keep that to an absolute minimum, though, throughout this entire build. I do have a used one up in the truck that I can no longer reach. I threw that on the floorboard a couple of years ago. I think it came out of a Tri-5, if I remember correctly, but it's probably just as worn. So I splurged on a Power Torque Assist. It's the cheapest clutch I could find. First thing we're going to do is take the disc itself, which should be a 10 spline, and make sure that it just slides on the input shaft without issue back here. And if it fits, we'll use the alignment tool, pop this thing on. We're just going to just glance at the pilot bearing in here, which is probably a bronze. Pretend that it looks good regardless of its condition, and proceed. It fits. How's it look?
Good. It's not into the rivets yet.
Well, that's a lot better than I thought it would be. That's a flywheel. Oh, mercy. She's got some chatter in. Why don't we take some 400 grit sandpaper and
Flap disc.
Not bad. A little bit of heat, a little bit of chattering, mostly on the flywheel side. But yeah, this isn't to metal on metal yet, so that's really surprising, actually. All this fine dust and material in here, you want to breathe that into your lungs as hard as you can with deep inhales. Okay. So I just spent a couple minutes cleaning this out. It's in there, and it exists. And yeah, good enough. This is kind of cool. Fingerprint to whoever put this together. They got some rid of her. Oh, it's the old grease. They must have greased this up. Anyway, I'm gonna try to resurface this just slightly before we put the new clutch on. Back here we can also see some newish freeze plugs. I'm sure this engine was fresh at some point a couple decades back. No idea how to tell how many nights or races have been on this thing. Unfortunately, the gentleman that built it has long since passed away, but we can keep him around in spirit by using this engine. Oh, yeah. It's got a pretty good lick on her, but we're going to pretend we didn't see that. Flywheel resurfaced for maximum performance. Now I'll just bop a dap of grease in there and finish putting it together. Krang is popping the clutch fork off. There's a ball stud it rides on. And then he's going to throw the new bearing in. Give her a dollop of this, just so. By the way, you can get these out with bread. Just put some bread in there, pound it in, and it'll work that out, but we're not doing that because this one's brand new, we're gonna say. Flywheel side, so we'll set this in like that. bring this guy up. Gonna get all these started and then we'll start working around. So all we're gonna do now is this needs to be able to work in and out easily like that. And we'll go across from each other. Still good. Just keep checking. There we go. Now the pressure plate will hold this into place. Now one thing that I did do that might help you out is I have one of the splines at 12 o'clock. So when we put this back together, we're going to rotate the transmission input shaft to 12 o'clock. So we're not having to try to clock it, index it, and everything else. If we put one of its splines at noon, bam, should slide right in, and then we just blast these bolts in and we're good to go. All right, we're gonna throw it up here. This back here, you're wondering, that just showed up, is Plan F. This is a block of Biggs. It's a Tibby, Terminator Broccoli injection unit, that I had to get for the bracketry to fix the rollback truck, which is now fixed. But I scored that and did a little trade-a-lazing to end up with this thing. And it says right here on the transmission, 33K miles wrecked. So that's pretty cool. We'll use it in something someday. Here's a twisty honor for you. One for me. Oh, get the pacifier out. And I got this at 12 o'clock. I shouldn't have to shake it like that. There we go. I think we're hitting the
Dowel pin wrong.
We're hitting something.
Oh, we gotta turn it over my way somehow.
Yeah, but what's it? There we go.
Oh, starter.
Oh,
Nothing's lining up. Starter's wrong. It's the starter.
is it?
Yeah. Only go in that little hole there.
Back it up. Okay. Well, we got starter alignment issues.
Gotta lift it up to get this other bolt out.
So if we change the starter, we'll have to count the teeth because the ring popularizer might change on this. So we'll have to check the starter in the back of the truck to see if that matches the flywheel on the floor from 1972, and then redo everything.
Okay.
Once again. All right, sweet. 36.
Your turn.
Okay, so we're counting flywheel teeth. This one is brand new. You could tell because of the way that it is. We're gonna count the teeth in this one. We're gonna count the teeth in this one. Chris almost had it there. He was almost there. Starters, so there's older style, which is drilled straight across. And then there's new style, or newer, which is like that. We got super extremely lucky, and this is drilled for both. So it has both styles drilled into that. This snout appears to fit this transmission, but what we're trying to determine is if we can leave this flywheel and clutch setup I'm going to have Krang mount the starter and see if that's going to clear. And while he's doing that, I'll count teeth. Ready, break. So he's snagging in the starter right now, which I don't think is going to work, but we're verifying. This looks like a 12 3/4, which would be 153 tooth. And this is a 14-inch, which is 168. And normally the 168s have the angled starter bolt pattern, and the smaller diameter or older style, which is this. Yeah, so here, that's a great example right there. So for sure, this flywheel has to come off. We're gonna take the clutch off again, and we are going to try to use this flywheel. I don't know if that clutch is gonna work. We're gonna have to see, but we're gonna have to try to clean. This one's in really bad shape. We're gonna try to clean this up. Wish I had a lathe. We could just ease a little of this off, but we're figuring it out a little bit at a time. You know, mating junk to garbage with a little bit of trash in betwixt, stuff happens. See how I'm rebuilding this? Flywheel resurface. Just ignore all these big gouges in here and stuff. Can't catch them with a nail. It's going to work out just fine. And then the performance clutch we're going to go with is this thing that laid outside for 2.5 years. But the important thing is the bolt pattern actually matches the larger diameter flywheel. And this seems to fit in there. And it seems to fit on that thing. And there's just a squish of life left. Look at that. So that's going to go together. I just got to resurface this with the same NASCAR precision. While I'm doing that, Krang is getting all the right hardware to get the starter up in there, and all of this should bolt together perfectly. That fit into that case, not on the engine. Then we got to see if it all slides together as one. You know, if it works, is it a dumb idea? Yeah, this package is looking race ready. That actually turned out really good. He's almost got that tightened up, and then we'll slap her together. Gonna use some red Loctite on the flywheel bolts, and about 3 Ooga-Doogas or 8 elbow pops per bolt ought to do it. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. We were pretty gung-ho about putting a new clutch in, but we get used flywheel and clutch.
It's almost like we're running against the wind.
Yeah, that's what them young horses like to do. Like this, man. Okay. That looks more gooder, right?
Well, yeah, she'll shoot right out into it.
You think? Does this fit? Yes. Kind of. All these years hoarding junk is finally paying off. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. Now with all used junk. And
There she goes.
A lot easier here than under the truck, huh?
Yeah, it seats better.
That seemed to work pretty good. So now we'll get the rest of the hardware in here, snap one of these bolts off. We got to put the pivot ball on, which goes over here. And I'd like to put the valve covers on, which I took off just to inspect, but I do need gaskets for that. These ones are old cork ones and they cracked. So we'll try to grab some new, or maybe I'll have some in stock actually. For that, I have to go look. Here's the old stuff. Motor mounts going in. And then the pivot ball goes right there. And this is what the Z bar rotates on. It's easier to put the engine side on, and then the bar will come across the frame. We'll loosen that nut and pop that out and then slide it over instead of trying to wrestle this inside the truck there. Well, we're to the point of figuring out the accessorize. Now, this is a short water pump. You could tell by looking at it. Also, the back of the water pump hits the timing cover. So there's zero room in here. That's how you tell it's a short. Long has a little bit of space in between here. Now, not that that's a big deal. The problem is the charging whirler, which takes usually different kind of bracketry with the short water pumps. You can see the top mount here is correct, but the bottom of this actually was mounted to the frame of the 38 Chevy because the engine was solid mounted by a custom plate built right here with some angle iron and a stick welder, which is absolutely approved, but we're not going to be using that. So what I think we're going to do is go down to Valve Cover Valley, pop the hood of another Chevrolet, and I think we'll take a long water pump, the upper fan pulley, which is going to be different, the bracketry for the charging whirler itself, and probably the accessory pulley on the bottom, and try to get something else to line up for accessories. We don't need power steering. This is not a power steering truck, but we absolutely do need this and this guy to do something. That'd be kind of neat. Let's go see what we can find. Well, we're out here in Valve Cover Valley. This is my someday build, kind of my favorite style truck with the step side on it, shorty. This has a V8 in it. It is locked up. Look at this one, it's pretty cool. This is a really old school build. Roller tip rockers. Had the rams or sheep's head manifolds on it. I'm sure it probably had a camshaft in it. But we're gonna use a bunch of parts from this thing. Here's the bracket we need. It was just laying up in here. So this is good. I know we need this. Lightning whirler hold down with the bolt. We got some valve cover clampulators. We've got a set of intake gaskets. Oh shoot, could have maybe used them, but that's a little hairy there. But anyways, we're gonna take, see how this is different? So we're gonna take this pulley, the charging whirler, the lower bracket, the water pump, all this is coming with, and we even got ourselves the correct intake and probably water neck. The other one's straight. The other one's a spread bore for like a quadrabog. I've got a used Edelbroken that'll plop right on this performer intake. That one probably needs a rebuild. I know I don't have a kit for that. I know this needs a rebuild. It's been sitting for 11 billion years. But we're gonna dig through here. Oh, whoa, that's weird. Someone cut it. You ever seen that? What would that be for? Some sort of sight glass on there. But we're gonna use whatever we can out of this truck essentially for our truck. This also has double hump heads in it. Well, that was a big score. Pump, pulley, fan, lower hose, intake, water neck, charger whirler, bracketry, hold downs, you name it. All of this obviously came off of that engine. All the top side is just laying in the floor on the inside. And I don't know what this goes to, but I guess we got a battery for the rig. It's only 4 years old. Seems fine. So now that a guy's got this stuff in here, I'm gonna go ahead and tear this one down so all the front accessories and everything are gonna come off, and the intake, and we'll get to take a peek inside and see if it's equally as clean. We won't really be able to see much, unfortunately, as far as the cam goes, other than verify it's a hydraulic flat tap, it would be my guess, being I've ran this motor in the past. But this is still good. We're gonna throw that on the part shelf. We'll throw the short pump on the part shelf, as well as the charger whirler, fan, pretty much everything, because I'm always doing different configurations and stuff, and this stuff comes in handy, as you can see. So let's strip and rip this one down, take a peek, and then rebuild the lies. Guy's gonna continue cleaning here in just a second, but a couple notes. It's starting to make more sense here. That Y-end intake, I was confused why it was on a stock motor class. Well, it turns out there were only a handful of bolts in it. One of the intake gaskets was actually missing, which means I've already used this intake on something else. It was probably what they call a winter's intake, which was more of a performance-y stock style intake back in the day. And they'd go along great with power packs or double hump heads, so on and so forth. So I threw that one on there just as a placeholder and a way to move the engine around. But look how clean this engine is. And it is a hydraulic flat tappet. So now I'm gonna continue cleaning the heads up here for our new intake gaskets, and we'll get ready also continue cleaning up front here to put the water pump gaskets on. Not gonna paint the whole motor, but I'll spritz where it's bare, call it good enough. Well, the guy's got her dolled up here, and we're not painting it to look pretty, we're just covering up the bare stuff. So it's blotchy and whatever, but good enough. Now, getting ready to put on gaskets, and I wanted to show you guys this. Normally, you've seen me in the past just use a dollop of rid of, just a couple spots. So when I set the gasket on, it's not walking around on me, right? And then we don't use the rubber pieces on, I call them China walls, or the ends of the block here. Those usually get squished out and leak. I run a 1/4 inch of room temperature vulcanization cream around both sides here, and then work it in good right in the corners so we don't have any leaks there. But anyway, I wanted to show you this. This casting is really rough from the factory. I don't really like the way that looks, but it is what it is. So in this case, I'm actually going to use this here, Prime Seal. It's a Type 3 Aviation gasket sealant. It's got a little brush applicator. Basically, we can brush the backside of the gasket, and this stuff is very sticky and tacky. If I can even get the cap open, my goodness gracious. It's very sticky, tacky, and that will glue on the gasket essentially. Hopefully cover some of these pores in and make it impossible for the next guy to get it off. Great. So before we goop all of that up, I want to clean this intake up. So we'll let that rid of sit for, 5 minutes. And then I like to plop these on right away. I don't like it sitting any longer than that. So let's have this ready. And basically I'm just going to hit it with wind quite a bit, spray her down with brake clean, and then just make sure on this side, that actually looks pretty good, but we'll run a wire wheel, a nylon wheel, and a drill. Not the wire one, but it's a plasticky one. And clean this up really good. So this is ready to plop right on there. So, a little bit of this glue juice. The drinker side's not bad. It's just the captain side will really smear up. This should tack it in place. Now this side got a really cake. I got it on my hand, which means that'll never come off. It's kind of a maple syrup consistency. There we go. Now, we could get a couple bolts. Well, this tacks up. Gotta go with the ultra gray. Got a weird consistency on this. I gotta knead it or something. I don't know what's going on. Boy, this is really weird. It's like oily. What in the world? Ain't never seen the like. A little better. I don't need sunflower oil in my gasket. It's all on the wrist. Right when you get to the end, you gotta break it and walk away. Break it. Walk away. And we'll plop this intake on. If I can get these to stop. I'm surprised they're moving so much. It's probably because it's so cold in here. There we go. Get the corners started, and then we'll let it sit. Tack up a little bit. But I wanted to get the intake on first, so I'm not stressing about dropping anything into the engine. Our new to us intake is on. Just a reminder to goop up your bolts there. We don't want any ingress or egress of foreign material or fluids. I did pop the water neck off. We're going to verify the thermostat works before we put the old one back in. I just use a torch and just wick the bottom. Don't hold it right on it. You don't want to warp the spring, but just wick this back and forth with the torch, and this should slowly open. If it's stuck, it'll unseat it. Then you know it's going to function properly, and we'll plop that back in. I am going to splurge and use a new swivel water neck so we can have full adjustability with this, because we don't really know what we're in for as far as upper radiator hose. Gonna pop this out as well while we have it in our teeth, nice and easy. This will be for the temperature sensor when we go back to put it together. And I'm gonna finish up the front accessorize here. Just new gaskets for the water pump. Water pump's gonna go on pulleys, and then we will get our charger whirler bracket off here. Try to get all that set up and make sure our belt alignment's going to be correct before all of this goes in the truck, because then I don't have to hang my belly off of the front firewall. I just thought I would show this because it only takes a second. You see here, completely closed. Stuck, and it should squeeze pretty quick once it's hot. There it goes, and it is opening. So this thermostat is good. So we can toss this back in and save $10. That feels pretty good. And we can look at the weep hole here and see that it's not a lot of corrosion. Doesn't look like water's been running out of that. So we can assume that the bearing is still good in there. It's cleaned up a little bit. Let's get the hoses off first. Oh, that one's already loose. Because I was working on this one. There we go. There's heater hoses in the truck, but I don't know if that heater core is any good. That looks good. We'll bolt her up. If you're wondering why we didn't pop the timing cover, it is because we're doing this as cheap as possible. If I were to pop that cover, there's really no reason not to put a new chain on. Oh no! What is going on around here? There we go. These bolts were completely rotted out of the truck we borrowed it from, so we're using some El Cheapos. They're too long. Perfect. This one's okay. These I gotta get shorter. I can do that. Oh yeah. Sure. This is the lower charge and whirler bracket. Big part of the puzzle. And then we will have the top bracket going to the intake, and right here, which I'll need to scrounge some hardware up for. And then that'll hold that unit into place. Bracket try loosely in place until we can kind of get it fiddleized. Now, power pack heads and some other early GM heads like double humps and others don't have the accessory holes in the front. And where that comes in handy is the late model GM charger whirler stuff. There's this bottom ear, and this normally goes through the lower bracket, has a spacer behind it, and you tighten that to the head itself. But no big deal. I've done this more times than I can count. We're just gonna put a bolt nut right through here like this and just tighten it against the bottom of this, just like a tractor basically. And that's gonna be just fine. This is a really stout piece, almost 1/4 inch thick. It's not gonna go anywhere. And then the top's just for tension, essentially. So let me grab some hardware for this. I gotta find the super special bolt for up here, which will probably just end up drilling out and putting a nut and bolt on as well. 3/8 by 3 serrated washer on the front and hex lock on the back, nylon, and then I did have a 5/16 18 for the top. Now we'll kind of just loosely get it set in here, just so it lives, you know. And then we're gonna put the pulley on the water pump and start trying to bring all this together. See, this is why I keep this loose, is the bolt wouldn't even fit in here if we had it smoked down on the intake or the water pump. So I like to get this started first. Oh, I should put a washer on that. I just had one laying around here. This will work. Might be too big actually. That's a 3/8. Yeah, let me get a washer. Okay, this has a pile of pulleys on the bottom there. And hopefully some of them just auto-magically align. Just using the spacer, no fan right now, so we can work in here, but gonna snug this up so it's flush or flat against the water pump, and then we'll check alignment. We know these two are gonna be aligned. Yep, we got super lucky. Sweet. Ooh, that doesn't sound very goodly. Huh. Well, you know, it's only 60 years old. So as far as the ligament goes, that water pump pulley comes right off that pulley. Don't have to swap it with the one off the other truck. The bigger concern is, oddly, this is nowhere near close to that. This is running like up here. So this has a little bit of adjustment here, but we don't have that adjustment here. So we're gonna have to take it on the back side of this bracket. So I'm gonna start spacing this out first. And then once we get it close, we'll figure out how many washers we got to stack in here to get that lined up right. Well, I found me a spaculator, and that came off of this pile of stuff that was from the original power steering pump that wasn't on the engine, but the spacer was behind that nonetheless. And that gives us a pretty darn close pulley alignment. Now, I just got to figure out, I'm going to say 3 5/16 washers behind there will get this space, because we don't want to just snug it up because it's going to tilt this forward. We want it face correctly as well, so we're not walking belts off. Well, I think I got it. Took a little bit more than I thought. I tightened this up with this disconnected and then just filled the gap. That's a small engine piece, but hey, seems like it's going to do the trick. I might actually put one more washer behind there. A little bit of movement. We'll figure out the belt later. Now we know this is going to work anyway. One more thing I want to do, well, two more things, is go ahead and pop valve cover gaskets, valve covers back on, get this to top dead center once again, and then drop the base of the lightning where they're in and get that snugged. Again, just stuff that's way easier doing it now before we plop this thing in the truck. Lightning whirler is in. You probably noticed I took that in and out about 15 times. That's because I wanted to get the orientation correct, which is pointing towards the number 1. It was not correct, so I just fixed that, and might as well do that before I drop that in. Put the carb studs in. This one was stripped out and way too wallered for 5/16, so we drilled it and we're tapping it for 3/8. This will just have a bolt, I guess, over here. I could put some all thread in there, but tossing a bolt in is going to be easier. Get the pull plate back on this, and I think we're just about ready to swing this into the truck. Yeah, looks good. Well, guys, picked up, cleaned, organized, whatnot. I got most of the parts up in the loft, other than that intake. I got to run that up there, and the clutches, you know, we'll save on them and that flywheel. But anyway, all the banking around is done that we want to do with the engine out, so it's just easier. Hopefully we don't bash this off the firewall, but memory serves me correctly, there's quite a bit of room on that, so I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm going to go grab Krang. He's out moving some rock around for me. I finally picked up a little bit more gravel. We've been flooding and we got washouts, all sorts of stuff out here. He's smoothing that out for me with the skid steer. I'll go grab him, get the truck down, and let's start plopping this in. Okay, we're gonna snag this hood off because I think we're gonna have to really snip before we snag, and it could be in the way. I'm gonna take some white paint. This way we'll have a perfect outline. Man, rebuilding the whole hood.
Can't find anything.
I don't know if it's helping the engine go in, but
Do you think it'll help us hold on to it better when we have to lift it and stuff?
probably.
Yeah, I think it'll help quite a bit.
Jeez.
I'm gonna put that down there.
Oh. Okay, we're ready to try to set this engine in. And I've got a homemade carburetor pull plate on the back mount, which is hopefully going to level this thing in. I don't have any fancy crank wheels or straps or any of that stuff. I also took a flat disc to the exhaust ports and came back with a flat sanding wheel and cleaned them up. Nozzle, they're going to leak anyway, no matter what we do. But basically, Chris is going to try to angle it. I'm going to yell a lot. So we're going to change the hoop because we need more danglage and it's bound up in here to get high enough. Easy. Faster, but easier. It's bending, so it seems fine.
Everything bending?
Yep.
Okay.
Snip it back. Downage.
That's everything it's got.
Snag it.
He's trying to G.I. Joe it off the back there?
Yeah, it won't go. Need more pork chop.
Oh, wait. Hand's caught. Hand's
Okay,
caught.
let's try it again. Without meat in between that. Oh, that's heavy. Okay, yep.
Down by?
Down. In. Down. In, down, in. Look, hold on. Pause, halt. I hear Z-bar stuff
No,
bending.
they're just hearing this bend. Hold on. There.
Okay.
Oh, dipstick. Pull the dipstick out. Because it's chrome.
Wow, yeah. Okay, down. Okay, I'm gonna have to get under there and lift. You're gonna have to cattle
Slam?
prod it. Also, we're dumping oil everywhere. Okay, something needs to happen. Down. Down, quick. Okay. Oh, I went way too far.
Yeah, we're about 4 inches off.
Okay, that's pretty close.
Pop it up.
Up a little bit. Now you can drag it because what is it sitting on? The fuel pump? Yeah, now drag with the machine. There you go. Right there. Let her down on the money. Install.
Oh, do you hear that click there?
That was the plop.
That was the motor mount popping in.
Yep. 327, 3-speed transmission installed, 68 GMC. Oh, that wasn't bad, huh? So that plop noise we heard actually was a really good noise. For some reason, the transmission mounts, exactly how we dropped it in, went right in, the bolts. Now we're working on the front. We need to come forwardage So Crank's gonna lay some beef into that 3-foot pry bar, and I'm gonna try to jam my fingers in a pinch zone. And together, we might be able to make this work. Yep. You already got beef on it?
Nothing.
It's not moving. Oh, wait. That did something. A little more? Okay, something's happening. Let me get a...
Zzz.
Oh, no.
Nothing.
That would have been way too easy. This is the hardest part about this style mount. Give her some pork chops.
Here on that side there.
Yep, right there. I like that. I like the way that's feeling. Oh, hold on. Just strain as hard as you can for a couple
Straining.
minutes. Get the long reach in there. It worked. Never seen the likes before.
I got a different bite now. Let's see what this does.
Okay. Oh yeah, you just rattlered it at least an eighth of an inch. Try it again. We might be too far now.
Let it rattle it back.
You want to pastrami those back ones? Wow. This went a lot better than expected. They make a whole different mount, so you don't have to do the two through the bottom. But one more bolt and this engine is in and tight. And then I have to remind Chris we're gonna have to undo all of that to get the headers in. Yeah, we got drinker side and passengers or captain side. I don't know what these are to. Probably a first gen Camaro. Something with a manual. But we're gonna try to jam these in, which most likely means undoing the 4 mounts we just did to lift the engine to slide these into place, and then redo what we just did and undo it to do it again on the redo. Well, the guy got the music pipes in on the drinker side without taking the starter out, which is nice. However, on this side, all this garbly goop, whoop, that's a spacer. Need that, spring pulls against that. The Z-bar, which is this guy right there, seems to be interfering at the moment. There's a nut on that side I've got to take off anyway because that bar goes over the stud ball. Right there, pivot ball. So I'll try to get up in there and loosen that up, get it out of the way, get the music pipe back loosely, get the Z-bar attached to the engine, and then we'll probably lower it down, finish the headers, and then we'll come back and get the torque tubulizer put back in. All right, Z-bar is moved. I'm gonna try it again. Slip. Just in. Now, how do I get? There we go. Oh man, did you see that? Slip and slide. Thinking ahead, why don't we change the oil filter? Well, this is floppy. Yeah. Should I go get a floppy disc for that? Oh no! Oil everywhere. Just try to line the U-joint up in the back. Is that where you want it? Yep. There. Oh my gosh! Good to go. hey, today went great. We got that 327 in here, ripped off all the old parts we weren't going to use, re-inventoried those, and got new to us, different junk mystery parts. Put that thing together, and it's looking pretty good so far, including a mystery flywheel, mystery clutch, and mystery starter that hopefully, you know, jive and do the dance together. Got the transmission bolted up, plopped it in the truck, and surprisingly, that went super simple, and everything lined up great. Drive shaft's in, Z-bar is in, and shift linkage is in and adjusted. We're pretty much done underneath the truck over in Bay 2 here. I do need an Earl filter. This takes a 51525 or the like. All I've got in stock is 51060s, believe it or not, so we're gonna snag one in the morning. Also gonna grab some new header bolts for this thing. Speaking of which, we'll get this down tomorrow, start on the music pipes. There's still a lot of work to do, but so far, it's going great. See you tomorrow over coffee. Well, hello. Next day now. It's actually afternoon. We had some chores to tend to, but we're back on the rig. I actually got the oil draining as we speak, and that Wix oil filter is already plopped in place. Just wanted to get this knocked out, so quite honestly, I didn't forget about it. We'll bring her down over here. Bay 2! Top her off, and then we're gonna jump right into music pipes, which admittedly we have been procrastinating on, and then we gotta figure out exhaust layers and gips and tips and all that stuff. Basically the easiest thing possible, which means there's probably going to be a tailpipe hanging out mid-door with a slight bend to it. But we'll see. Let's get after it. Since the U-joint's bad and we're ignoring that, Chris thought we'd make it up and get her even again if we pretend to check the fluid and the diff. So he's gonna strip this and then we'll walk away and say we checked it. Did it go?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. So I guess we will check that actually, which cancels out the bad U-joint. And then we'll get her down.
Yeah, it's empty.
Empty? Okay. We get some flexi fills. Flexi fill going in. We had a pretty good pinky scoop, about a half moon shape, and it was down. So squeeze this in until it starts leaking out, and then you just quick jam the plug in and it's full. And then we're gonna take the rest of the bag and come up here and we'll check the shift machine too, because I'm sure that hasn't been checked since 1981. And that'll be low. So this is kind of surprising. We got one bag already in it. I mean, it was empty.
Here it comes.
This one's got a little plugalizer on the side, but same thing. Fill it till it spills, jam the plug in. All right, we got some new header gaskets and bolts. I don't have a set of these laying around, but we're gonna snag this in, get this done first, and then I think we're gonna spend the balance of the day trying to figure out some hinky-rinky exhaust for this, just so it's done. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. You know, popping on a fuel make it happener, lightning cap, lightning hoses, sparkulators, radiator.
Went down.
We can put that down there, that's fine. You know, it's just time consuming. We'll find the parts. I just want to get the hard stuff done, and the biggest, hardest thing left is the exhaust system. Oil, topside bay 2! Oh, there's someone here this time, so actually worked out right.
Topside.
Want to keep this little classic small block Chevrolet alive and healthy. So we're going with the VR1 2050. This is high performance oil formulated for push rod and flat tappet engines. Perfect for classic rigs. I already pre-filled the filter, of course. Threw a Wix in down below, you know the deal. Get this done just so we don't forget, mostly. Then we're gonna move on to the exhaust pipes. And you can watch us struggle and try to figure out what Chad, not Chad or the other Chad, but Muffler Chad can do in 15 minutes. Acorns.
Sound like someone's trying to get in.
Yeah. It's that oak tree just
just really
coming down. Wow. That might be a squirrel.
something. Polar bear. You can get higher than that.
That's pretty good, isn't
I
it?
think you get higher than that.
Running on a
Higher than that. That's pretty good.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an animal.
Well, let's go see what we got. All right, so Krang and I looked over the exhaust situation, and here's what we come up with. So we got these ping pong reducers that, and they're 2.5. We're gonna flare these out a smidge, and I think we're gonna put the gips right in there. So they're, you know, and then we'll figure out some pipelators, and we're gonna either midlife crisis it right here, or we're gonna old man it way back here, depending on how terrible it looks having a 17-foot long pipe at 13 degrees. And then we might have to run down to the store and get some tips, because you can't have gips without tips. That's a rule somewhere. These are a little bit more difficult. You either got to hug the inside by the drive shaft and then come up over the axle, or come outside over and then up and over. You're, you know, master builder if you're bending kits out of this. Chad can do it. I can't. We're just, you know, can wind and smoke come out down here rather than there? That's the goal. Exhaust system complete, and that's pretty much exactly what we were going for. The headers came out at much different heights and angles, and we tried to get her flat as we could. The other pipe's a little bit lower, but we have the tip in the exact same spot. We're pretty darn close, so it doesn't matter. Once it's on the ground, it's all you see anyway is the tips, and we know it's got jips, so it should sound good. Now it just needs, you know, everything. More updated. We're going to use the old existing fuel pump, and these steel lines are actually off of the old engine setup as well. I just re-bent them and shortened them. We got a fuel line in. There's a filter tucked back here. Going to run a Wix 33000, of course. And starters in and wired up. Here's the battery cable, and then the purple wire for the relay is also hooked up and ready to go. So underneath should pretty well be done at this point. We're gonna call it an early night though. Krang's in town, so we're gonna head back to the house, hang out with the kiddos a little bit, have a little bit of fun. We'll be back yet again tomorrow, and we'll see if we can make progress on, you know, fuel make it happen, or ignition, cooling system, all of that. We'll see you then. Well, good morning. Here we are, we're back. Krang's already headfirst into the engine compartment. He's working on the old porcelain staffs. Speaking of staffs, I got a list that have nothing to do with each other, but we figured we'd put something up to hold ourselves accountable, so that way we can visualize our failure. So here it is. This is what we're gonna need to get this thing making some noise, hopefully. We got the Dizzy, you know, lightning whirler, we got lightning hoses, we got sparkulators, we got fuel make it happener, the water boiler needs to go in, got two back there. We need heat pipes, the old electric highway. We're gonna have to do some wiring. You know, basically 12 volts to the lightning whirler, and something hanging off the starter ought to do. Then we've got tires and brakes. We got to find a plate newer than 2007. We got to clean the glass, adjust the clutch, put in a bushing or something hopefully, and then drive it. If we don't get to the drive and all the finite stuff, I'm happy. What I want to hear is this thing just make some noise. We got another late start today because the boys got a basketball hoop for Christmas, so Krang helped me put that up this morning. I also allegedly may have dropped him 8 feet from the sky on a pallet that were on the forks of the tractor, but you know, allegedly. He's fine. So let's dig in. Let's get the ignition part done. I'm going to find a cap, make a notch on the base, line up my rotor, and then we're going to just boop, about 12 to 14 degrees initial on the thing. It should be good enough to make some noise, and then we'll shoot a light down there, also known as my ear, after that. All right, got the lighting hoses in, porcelain staffs, pretty much the ignition is done. We have to test a power wire here, but we're gonna do that in a minute after we get the fuel make it happen or bolted on. The lightning whirler, I can't remember if I mentioned that, but that was the cheapest kit off of Evil Bay. It's a ping pong deluxe. Comes with lighting hoses, although not these ones. I robbed those out of that kit. That was what was left. These hoses are off of some other project, but they're used out of box. We'll throw those on, should work fine. This guy here has been laying around for, couldn't even tell you. And it went into something with some homemade rod. So this should be shot. We're gonna bolt this on and might flow fuel, maybe not. If not, we might rebuild that Holly or find some other junky thing I got laying around, but we're definitely not buying a new carburetor for this. I do need to drill out this hole in the corner. The intake was wallered out on one side, so we popped that up to 3/8, got the gaskets and everything bored out, but I need to bore this thing out and then we'll plop it on. This is gonna be our bracketry. This has the circular rubber kind. We're gonna bend up a TV cable adapter for like a transmission kickdown or a TV cable, bend it around that and then squeeze it with the plier, and that might hold it in place. Or it'll break, and if it breaks, that means we got to put a big block in, pretty much, to fix it. Crank's gonna get the negative cable hooked up to the header bolt, so we have a ground. Might need to waller just a hair. That ought to work.
Something went down.
Let's set that down there. Hoses galore. Yep. Yeah. I don't have a NPT to barbed fitting on hand for the rear of this fuel make it happener for the brake booster. So for now, we're gonna run this around there and plug up our vacuum leak. That'll be our vacuum advance. We'll get in a minute. Now I'll put a ball stud kit on here for this throttle piece. And then the bracketry, get this bolted in. All right, well this is all buttoned in. This worked great for the throttle here if you have the rubber kind. You can just spread this open, slide it in and squeeze it shut. This is for like the kick down or whatever else. Don't need any of that. If I cared enough, I could just zip that right off, but you know. And then we ran the spring to whatever homemade bracket was already on this, because this one up here made it interfere with the choke. But that's all on and ready to rock. Gonna throw some fuel in this thing, and I think we're pretty much to the point after the starting over on that because my face is wrong. We're going to test for voltage on this once we plop in a battery, and then we'll plug that into the lightning whirler, and then we'll put some fuel in this thing, prime it up, and we're gonna see if this thing makes noise. Lightning cube time. This guy here is
I don't know, it's September 23. Super faded, but it's been on a hard boost boil mode for a couple days, so it should work just fine. Should I spin these? Let me spin it. Spin. How's that? That'll work, but we need to lengthen that a little bit. Our body grip. Lengthening kits are over by the oil drain pan. Can't beat on these battery posts. It's terrible for them. Okay. There we go. We're gonna hook up a body ground over here, and then we can start doing some digital testing of the old electrical highway. While Krang is over here speaking in tongues, wiring this thing, I tested that I got 12 voltages to this cord hanging off, which there goes all
of
the
them.
fittings. Yeah. And this one has the right spade style fitting to snap into a lightning whirler. I did get 12 volts with the key on. Now key's off and it's 0. So that is the guy. I also got a brake light on in the dash, which is pretty exciting. As soon as that's plugged in, I guess we're gonna bump the key, make sure the ignition tumbler is working, and the wiring to the starter itself, which laid in the back of this truck and got rained on for umpteen years. Then it matches the flywheel and everything turns over unabated. I guess that's the idea. Then we'll interject something flammable. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Dustpan, trash can. Well, we should be to the point we can try to twist this thing off and fire it. Now, when it was on the homemade wood engine stand thing, I rotated it over by hand until wind blew out of the number 1, which is going to be going towards TDC. Then I could actually just shoot my eye right in the sparkulator hole there. And I rocked it back and forth to make sure it was right at TDC. This has a weird old school timing tab where it basically just says 0, and then there's like 3 hashes. But it doesn't give you a field of before and after. So I set it straight on the money, lined the cap up directly to the rotor, and then just went boop. Gave her just a tickle of timing, which should be enough to get it running, and then we'll have to put a timing light on it, obviously. This varnish gas is out of the back of the side-by-side that's been laying there for a couple years. Throw some in the bowl. There's no fuel in the tank. Well, I don't think anyway. We might have to shut the key off quick if fuel starts spraying. And then I'm going to throw a little bit down the yap. All right, hit it, Krang.
Running now.
Wow, who did this exhaust? Good little motor. First time this thing has ran in many, many, many years. Should die out of fuel here in a second. Of course, we don't have a cooling system, water pump, or anything on it right now. Nope, wrong way. Running out of fuel. Didn't even smoke, did it? I'll be dipped. Now what? Yeah, fuel line. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, let's put gas in it. And then we'll figure out cooling, I guess.
I've always wanted to upside down one.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like a Chevelle or something, but. Okay.
Piece of wire right here.
That's tiny. You can throw it up though. I think this is the radiator we're gonna go with. And then we'll just have to figure out hoses. That one's way over there and down. We'll try to find something to snag over, and then we need a 19-foot long one here. Maybe a curlicue or something. And I gotta find a plug, or maybe we'll run and get a temp sender for that guy. We gotta run a fuel line from the steel hose up into that guy. We're getting there. Bottomizer. I think it goes like this. We're just trying random hoses and stuff we found.
Oh, that'll feed right off.
I mean, it's close, right?
Well, we get a piece of spring in there.
Oh boy, it's not even.
Well, if we cut some off and heat it up with a torch and bend it over.
If it just wasn't shaped anything like this, it would,
Pop right on.
yeah, it'd be pretty close. Well, we'll keep trying. All right, gonna throw in a little bit of gasolina. Oh, wow. A little varnishy looking. But if it's gonna be running, we might as well try to pull fuel from the tank, see what this tank's gonna say to us, and if the pump's gonna work and all that stuff. All right, we got fuel, we got a fuel line. What? Oh, you wanna tighten clamps? We gotta tighten the clamp, and then we're gonna hit it. Basically, well, first of all, big victory. Fuel didn't dump on the ground when we dumped in what we had. So at least it's holding in the holding tank. Now we're gonna see if the pump's gonna come back to life and fill the fuel make it happener that we haven't cracked open or nothing. Let me just hit it. Okay, now we gotta watch the fuel filter, see if it fills. After I hand throttle it. Drop my phone bad. Okay.
Get a hand throttle or radiator hose rubbing on the.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Boy, let me try to fill a bowl. Okay, try her now. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Come on. Come on. Boy, it might not go. Those diaphragms get so dry in there. Well, for Pete's sake. Still not pulling. Probably shouldn't run it any longer than this without juice in it. Oh, the gips and tips sound great. Does it feel like it's pulsing or anything? 60 pounds of oil pressure almost. Well, it runs. Runs pretty darn good. Still haven't put a timing light on it or anything like that. It's still not pulling fuel for some reason. Probably gonna need to soak down that fuel pump, get that diaphragm, and again, and whatnots. Well, we're gonna cowl it for tonight once again because we've got to go move Betty White and a La Sabre and some other stuff around. And we got just a tickle of light left. Krang's gonna jump on an airplane tomorrow morning. Big thanks to Krang Manifold Beery for everything that he's helped with around here. We got a lot done on the property, and we also ate a lot of food, so that's pretty good. Yeah. Well, we do got quite a bit crossed off the list over there that I can't read. Eyes has just failed the guy. But we're gonna keep our feet moving. I wanna get this fuel pump pumping, hopefully, or we just need to replace it. But I wanna do that before we get the lower radiator hose in and all that stuff. Just more stuff in our way, right? So what I did this morning was pull the line off of the pump, blew backwards to the tank, and I got bubbles, which means there's no restriction or anything in that line, which is good. But I still wasn't getting fuel flow forward. So then I just went over and put my mouth on the old opening. I probably got rust stuff in the old soup saver. But anyway, blew it into the tank. We got some fuel on the ground, plugged her back in. Now we should have fuel right at the pump. So if the pump's gonna work, now is its opportunity. I primed the fuel, make it happen here again. We're gonna do a cold start, fire this thing up, let it run for 30 seconds to a minute. It should hopefully start pumping by then. If we get fuel up there, we're gonna shut it down and figure out our cooling system. We have to put in some sort of temp gauge or something. There's one hanging under the dash. I gotta see if it's got the other end still hooked or if it's snipped off or what's going on there. And we'll just kind of keep moving forward. Then we got to do fan and belt and, you know, all that stuff. Miscellaneous hardware. Got to save on this stuff. Some of it's hard to find. I'm sure you also noticed Krang helped me put the hood back on. This puppy's at least 7 stones, so I was not going to be able to do it myself. We threw that on really late last night before we left. Anyway, get the Lone Wolf hooked up here. I think I'm still in neutral. Well, for heaven's sake. No idea if the accelerator pump works. Here we go. Good engine. And full fuel, come on. Maybe, no. It kind of looks like it's trying, but let me crack it up here in case there's a bunch of air. There's air, more air. Now it's pumping, plug her back in, boom. Fuel pump came around. That's great. Gotta clean up a little fuel spill. Okay, fuel pump is pumping. We can shut her down. Move on to cooling. So we tried a couple different water boiler hoses yesterday. The bottom one was close-ish.
I found one even better, actually both of them off of the same engine laying in the back of a 64 C10 out in Valve Cover Valley. This looks like an upper. The lower, I already got snaked in here, and that seems pretty close. It might be kinkish. So let's go this way. This looks like it's going to work too. Water neck's a little bit of a wrong angle. I wonder if I think I do have a sideways one. That would help this out. So let me fart around with hoses a little bit more, but both are used. We'll probably splurge and put new clamp laters in, you know. But right now I'm gonna try to figure out the water neck. This one's a little tall, and I think if I can get a factory sideways bend, that might be better for our situation. I'm gonna put that bolt down there. So good news, we can return the Swivelator 900 water neck that I bought. And we're gonna use this old one. This is the one that came on the intake actually. And this is lower and has the right angle we need for this hose to work properly. I even have the original hardware, so we'll just snag this right back in. Just checking the gasket out here, make sure this is proper. Seems like, I don't know, it's gonna gaskety-ish. If not, it leaks and we over torque it. Okay. You've probably noticed, but the white on the underside of the hood is growing. Hanging some curtains, you know, here and there. Basically any whitish spray balm I can find. Various different flavors and styles. I've just been emptying them out under the hood here. I've got maybe one can left over there if I could find another one. And then we've completely rebuilt the underside of the hood. Right before it strips. That's the secret, is just right before. Jeff's running. That's that noise. Only way I can keep up around here. Okay, I think this can go on like, oh, that's gonna work good. First, we gotta do a temp switch or temp sensor. And I found this just because I was painting and noticed some overspray on a cord. Boom. I do need an adapteroonie, which means we're gonna have to drop, I don't know, $1.87 on a fitting to get this in here. Let me go find one. And we'll get that put in, just routing it right now. There we go. Okay. Adapteroonie is in. Radiator hoses are in, tightened down. Put a little bit of juice in there. Now we got to finish the fan. I had 2 bolts in here. Got to try to hold this together. Slide the fan in here. Seems like it's always just a trick to get one going. If a guy can do that, then you got her whipped. Can't see nothing. Of course, we're running no shroud because we would really like the risk of overheating. You know, otherwise we just get bored. Okay. Come on now, hits. I think I got one going. What? Well, we might as well go on ahead and get the charger whirler wired up while we're under here. So this is a 3-wire charger whirler, GM obviously, and super easy to convert that over to internally regulated 1-wire essentially. All we have to do is jump the field wire right to the output post. Bam! She'll fire up and charge for us. The other one typically has an R which is a reference for regulator or an indicator light or something like that. That can kind of just hang out there. We don't really need that. So I'm just going to make a little jumper and then another cable that goes from there directly to the battery. You can also run them down to the starter if you want, but we're right here. We'll just make that happen. Now, two concerns. One, that thing is older than Abraham Lincoln. It's been hanging out under a hood in an unknown 60s truck. The likelihood of it actually working. Also, the output post has been badly damaged. I'm working really hard to get the nut off right now, and it's wanting to spin inside the case, which is a big no bueno. It's probably a 13% chance this one's actually going to work. We might be scrounging around for another used one or one off the shelf from some other project or something like that, but nonetheless, we're going to give her a shot. Got the door open on account of the fumes. What a bit of a day in the neighborhood it is. Hey, fired it up. And it's charging, believe it or not. 14.8, strong charge. Made some pretty wild alien type noises, kind of like a UFO landing, but she came back around, is what I'm saying. I did jump in and try the clutch and got Grind City. So we're gonna have to do some adjusting there. I'm gonna wait to fully top it off because I don't have a cap yet. You gotta find one of those. But let's shut it down, make some clutch adjustments, and see if we can start. So pretty straightforward. We need more throw on her. So we're gonna take that right there and adjust those nuts to where the rod is pushing further back when stationary. And that should give this clutch a little bit more throwed on her. Well, the guy's got the underside adjustalized, I think. We're getting pretty close. This is gonna be a delicate ballet of sorts with bratwurst in her hands, yeah. Does this hand down here talk to this hand up there in terms of adjustalizing? There's a lot of slop and wear in the pedal, which hits the Z-bar, and there's a lot of slop where the Z-bar hits the rod. So I'm gonna bring her back down, try to figure out if we could take up some of the slop. The Z-bar to the clutch fork seems solid. We're just not getting enough throw with the pedal to make that happen. So let me fart around some more. Great. Yeah, so here's a big issue. I'm laying in the truck. This is a clutch pedal. There's that much movement before it even attempts to move the rod. So that's a big issue. Oh, look. Did I already work on this at some point? That's holding the throttle cable. Haha, proved. So we got to get up in here and see what in the world. Looks like a bushing's missing there. This looks loose. We got to make some adjustabilities. Well, I finally got the rod rassled out of there. This hose clamp was on the end holding it in, and upon further investigations, the cotter key's been snapped off in here, so I'm going to try to re-drill that, and then we'll have to try to figure out some sort of shim or spacing for this to take up all that slop in there. Well, just whittled up this bushing we can try to use, and then spent 97 years with this stick poking around in here. Guess why? Yeah, it promptly fell right into there. So that was a lot of fun. Anywho, this is just a shift bearing out of the self-help aisle or bushing. And I just cut it to where it might fit. I'm gonna keep cutting just little slivers off until we can get this wrapped around there. It doesn't look like a lot, but that's gonna help take up some of that slop and that linkage. I've also got that other piece tightened in there through the ratchet on there, and whoop, whoop, you know, it gave her some. Well, this is going to feel really weird saying, but I believe that's fixed correctly. And now if I hit the clutch pedal, immediately we can see that this rod moves.
So now all the play is out there on the Z-bar. So we gotta follow the breadcrumbs.
Well, here's a sign of a 746,000 mile truck. The rod, I popped it out to potentially put another bushing on. But the rod itself, I keep getting hung up, has eaten through. Look at this. Almost half of it. This is gone. So now I think I gotta pull that whole rod out to figure something else out after all that work on the inside. Great, sweet. Well, I got her out. This is the pedal side, this is the Z-bar side. Cleaned it up with the wire wheel, look at that. Almost cut that thing all the way off. And although it only looks like 1/8 of an inch, might not seem like a lot, you can see how much pedal movement that creates. So we're gonna do some fab, weld all that in, reshape it, grind it, cut it, clean it. Probably have to re-drill that hole and then jam this back in. Well, we've got a nice tight fit in there now. Don't even need a bushing. It doesn't look the greatest, but it's gonna do the trick. I just gotta finish knocking the hole through there for a pin, and we're ready to rock. There we go, hole is done. Now I'm gonna run in, put this in the cab first because I discovered that I could push the clutch pedal all the way down. It's easier getting this key in and the bushing on the inside. Then we'll let it relax, and then I'll fight this in out here on the Z-bar. And then we're back to testing the clutch once again. Should work now though. Maybe, probably not. Okay. All right, let's try it now. See what we got. Oh yeah, the clutch feels way better. A lot more pressure right there. Fires right up, reverse. Nope, I go to the floor, reverse. There we go. Yep, first. Made me nervous for a second, but I didn't have the clutch all the way to the floor. We got gears, transmission's quiet, clutch is quiet. Ha ha! Victory. Oh, that's great news. Well, I'm an idiot. I was just noticing here, I was looking behind this grill bar. I thought this might be a 68, but it doesn't have the GMC in the front here. That's a 7172 front. So this is a 7172 GMC. My bad, okay? Found an old cap off of another truck, so that'll work. Now we can top her off. Well, I got her topped off with coolant, just fired it up, gonna let it sit here and run, gonna open the doors, get the air bridge, your bridge jack under this, and start putting some fresh rubber on this thing, and then we'll go out to Valve Cover Valley or Hubcap Hills, try to find an air cleaner for this. I thought I grabbed one off that other truck, but I can't find it for some reason. And then we'll slam the hood on this thing, take it for a drive. The brake pedal, I just hit it. It's kind of doing something. That's good. Well, I went antiquing, found the incorrect air cleaner for this application based on the bottom lid there, but it's on there, and it's an old school Moroso, so good enough. Nailed the hood alignment with the old spray paint trick. We got 2 new tires on it, because it turns out the junk tires I bought off Evil Bay are junk tires off Evil Bay. I know, I'm just as surprised. The bead cord absolutely exploded and removed itself whilst trying to mount. So we've got 2 okay-ish ones and 2 abouts ready to blow any second. One's losing wind as we speak. I got the compressor hooked to it just in case. So I still need to figure out a title. plates and tires, so we're not going to run this down the highway. But there's nothing stopping us from, you know, putting her to work and tickling it around the farm here. So let me clean a spot to see out of the window, and let's go do that. Just sitting here thinking, I got a couple chores that a guy could get done if we're going to tootle around and burn gas. And you know, a dirt track motor and a pickup truck, it's probably going to go exactly how you would expect. You know, we're just going to pin its ears back. Feed her the onions, give her some coal, you know. Oh, turns out my overspray also expanded to the windshield. Nice. I need to replace this anyway at some point, so we're not going to worry about it.
So there is still a lot of timing left in this thing. I mean, gobs. But we're running it on farm fuel, and we know that this is a high compression motor. So we're going to be a little bit conservative. That's kind of the plan. Yeah. Let's get some chores done. Oh, the brakes are not very braky.
Well, I'm down on the lower road, and I just did a hard J-hook to come back here and heard a loud explosion. Bad explosion. And I ain't got no clutch. Nothing. So I don't know what happened there. Rod's intact, fork's intact, Z-bar is doing the thing. But that never stopped an old country boy from getting some chores done. So let me just start it in gear. We're still going to try to tootle this thing around. Just got to ease it. See what's there. Oh no, the column's jammed. We're stuck in second gear, I think. Yeah, definitely second. Man, I miss this motor. Man, it rips. Man, this motor rips. Might as well go check the house. Oh, what a good motor. Oh, a tree. That's a tree. That's a big tree. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's a good door panel. Did we lose anything? No. Poverty cap, rag, and the C-clamp still here. Listen, I don't care what you say. This is a fully optimized, rare specimen going to town rig. This thing's got it all. Well, I mean, it's missing a lot, but it's got most of it. And the best part is this thing cost me literally next to nothing. All used junk, parts, stuff off a parts truck, stuff laying around, whatever we had. I have virtually nothing into this truck, and it's getting down. It's doing the thing. Obviously, we've got some work to do. So this is where I have to pass it over to you and rely on your comments. Do we just send this down the road as is with a pretty legendary engine in this thing that runs like a top, or do we keep going? Do we figure out a title and plates and tires, wheels, maybe scratch and shoot it, do something with the interior? I don't know. You guys let me know. Bleep bloop it down there in the comments, and I'll scan through those and come up with some sort of plan, which we don't really do very often around here, if a guy's being honest to another guy. Anywho's and way, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you so very much. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. It's free. Just boop, hit that button. No obligation. You'll get notifications, and I don't know, it does something else. No one knows how this stuff works, okay? All right, we'll see you next time.